giving us the opportunity of this EFARD meeting to be with you and discuss about something that matters to us and to you. Here we are. And that has a real meaning because it took us a while to come to this very meeting after we did, and all my thanks go to Alessandro and all of you in the room, or not in the room, but wherever you are on planet Earth, for what you have been trying to do in the past. And then somehow, and I put all blame on us, we went into hibernation. Let me put it gently this way. We were able to continue a couple of things, and you may have heard of a collective action on forgotten food that we presented at the FAO Science Days last year, ahead of the UN Food System Summit. So we did not totally disappear, but we just were not able to continue on this very interesting collective action that many of you joined forces in a while ago already. So in that sense, here we are finally again, and it's a bit of the same, but it's also different. I think I have not been involved in the past, but I'm happy to commit GFAR's support in facilitating this and partnering with you. We have prepared a PowerPoint presentation with just 5 slides. I will have 2 on presenting GFAR. Maybe we go to the structure on the next slide. And for those of you who don't know what GFAR is, the Global Forum on Agricultural Research and Innovation, and then another one on our way of working, which is facilitating collective actions. And then I will hand over to Alessandro, who is the big brain and facilitator behind this, and he will talk us through. Can we just go back 1 slide, Nathalie, please, through the overall context for those of us who have not been here in previous times, the background, and then the key requirements as we see them, and then we will hand over to Jan to present how they look at this collective action. So my first contribution is presenting GFAR, and here we could please show the next slide. GFAR is the Global Forum on Agricultural Research and Innovation. It's a forum, it's a network, it's a movement. We have members, at least 600. It looks as if we have 800, but we are currently scanning them and seeing who is still around and willing and interested in joining us more actively. From across the world. I usually say from the Global South because this is where most of our members are based, but you see today that is not true. We are also based in Europe, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, in the United States and around the globe. So a really global forum. This is the big treasure of GFAR, a network that was established 25 years ago to bring these voices to the table and into the discussions. It is based on 13 different constituencies. Our main focus is on small-scale producers, with a specific attention hopefully given to women and young people. But there are also all other constituencies, whether it's the private sector or the academia, farmers association, civil society at large, interested in the transformation of the global of the agri-food system, the global and the local and the regional agri-food systems. So that is very much our focus, but we are free, you are free, our members are free to set the agenda and to decide what matters most to them in order to make agri-food research and innovation system more effective, responsive and equitable. And next slide, please. This is the way how we do that, via collective actions. So a collective action is, by our definition, and you'll find this on our website, an innovative partnership mechanism. So it's not a funder and a recipient doing something together, hopefully with, but oftentimes not, with the small-scale farmers, in which diverse members agree on something that matters to all of them, and they commit and bring and generate their own resources, human resources, financial resources, whatever. Is there anybody wanting to come in? No, okay.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, so the minimum would be 3. members, and we really push for having small-scale producers themselves being among these three. Oftentimes, I mean, with the current collective actions we are running, we have many more. Just to quote again, the collective action on forgotten foods, where I don't know how many members we have.
Several hundreds.
Several hundreds. So you see, this is really going across the globe. We have regional constituencies who all joined into a global manifesto that we managed to agree on in the end. It's very much about things that matter to not one or three, but as many of you as possible. And once we identify, and this is the very case here, a problem or an issue or a challenge that is of common interest, and that we are better, you are better able to tackle while coming together and joining forces, then this could develop into a collective action. This one has been the collective action on transformational learning. I don't know whether we still keep this name, this title, or whether there are ideas. I think I've seen some in the background documents. We can discuss. But once we have a number of members who would like to join forces on a specific topic, it's brought to our steering committee, and the steering committee last year in October agreed that this should be, as soon as we have, I mean, some staff on board, some financial capacities, we should engage in this. So I'm very grateful for Alessandro coming back with full steam, reviving what has been done in the past, but adding a lot of new elements to this, and I'll hand over to him. Let me just mention two more things. These collective actions need to also meet two criteria. One is the GFAR principles. You see them here: complementarity, voluntarism, accountability, subsidiarity. And they should adhere and implement the partnership principles. I don't go through the partnership principles now, but in case of interest, and I hope it is of interest, you'll find it on our webpage. We are currently renewing them in another effort, because we want to go with them, we want to go beyond our constituencies and our work, and make, hopefully, the world, whatever agricultural research is being done, is not done, no research done without farmers, no research done about them without them. That was the expression I was looking for. So this is something that we, of course, apply to our collective actions as well. With this, thank you for your interest. Thanks for being here. I look very much forward to this new or not so new collective action, and hand over to Alessandro to give you the more substantive details. Thank you.
Thanks, Hildegard.
Thank you very much, Hildegard, and I'll follow up with the next slide, in which, first of all, we'll say just a few essential words on the context and on the way the context has been evolving. Broadly, we can say that many actors of innovation now recognize that innovation is not anymore something done in isolation, but is the result of a social process. And GFAR embraces 100% this notion. And me saying that innovation is the result of a social process means it is based on the interaction of diverse actors as holders of interests, views, and knowledge. In a nutshell, that's what we call co-innovation. And we often use this expression to refer to innovation as the result of the social process. In the context of co-innovation, what we observe on the field, and this is the kind of context we would like to put on the floor, is a transformation of the role of research and advisory services towards the initiation and facilitation of processes of economic, organizational, and technical innovation, which is less transfer of knowledge, less transfer of technologies, but more initiation and facilitation of processes. In this area, the agricultural advisory services play an increasing role of liaison officers, that's how we could call them, between clients, farmers, and specialized services. So we assist farm-firm relationships or farm financial services relationships that agricultural advisory services facilitate. Researchers on their side, need more and more to be able to connect different knowledge systems in a generation of solutions. So here we assist to researcher-producer interactions, where the interactions are both ways. So knowledge is flowing in both directions and not only in one direction. Both professionals, if we have to summarize, tend to play a sort of brokerage function. Now, if we agree on this evolution, it bears significant consequences for the education of agricultural advisors and researchers in terms of providing and supporting a different type of capacities which are needed both in content and approach, focusing on soft skills, life skills, and technical skills. Now, to give more elements on the background, Hildegard was referring to a previous action. Next slide, please. We are building this collective action on something that had started in 2016 and that actually was discussed in Nairobi in a big meeting that was organized by GFAR, where knowledge, skills, and attitudes of the future graduates were identified. This meeting implied and discussed also the redefinition of the role of the instructor, of the pedagogical practices, and of the purposes of the universities, encompassing transformed learning processes. These were key to the meeting conclusions, and we are building on this. GFAR provided assistance in preparing together, in collaboration with the stakeholders ready to be mobilized, a collective action. So that's where the collective action had started. The collective action aimed at incorporating in the training modules of voluntary academic institutions the relevant themes to build entrepreneurial agribusiness competencies on one hand, but also the soft life functional skills which are needed to complement the technical abilities towards building what we call collaborative management of innovation capacities. So this is from where we come from, and we are building on these achievements in terms of agreements. Actually, we see today also for this meeting and for the follow-up, these 4 requirements, which are built on extensive work carried out by UNESCO in this domain.
Can you move to,
professional change. So the first, which for us is essential because it's linked to the ground, it's linked to the reality of the way research and extension is being, as I mentioned before, implemented and how it is evolving. We need a better definition of the new roles played by advisory services and researchers. I mean, the tasks, the terms of reference, what the French call the cahier des charges. What is their cahier des charges? Or one could say, what is their professional profile? We need to define this better, the new professional profile. Second, from this professional profile, from these tasks that are being performed on the ground, we need to identify the corresponding competencies and skills that are in support of those tasks, in support of those new responsibilities. The French talk of profil des compétences. The third step, which is derived from the profil des compétences, which is derived from the identification of new competencies and skills, is of course the corresponding learning approaches and contents, so both curricula and approaches for developing the capacities. This is the third step we need to identify, and this is the part, of course, which is more related to what's going to happen in the universities. The French prefer to profil d'apprentissage, how we learn. The collective action that we are talking here about, facilitated by GFAR and EFARD, with EFARD coordinating, aims precisely at creating the conditions for diverse families of actors to come together on the same ground and debate these 3 key aspects. we hope that a multi-stakeholder group will be formed to support a selected number of universities, voluntary universities, that together with their partners, so not alone, not in isolation, will reflect and act upon higher innovation transformation requirements, higher education, transformation requirements that are needed to meet the emerging professional needs of researchers and extensionists. Now, with this, I end up. Thank you very much for your attention. And after the presentation of Czech University, we will discuss comments, thoughts, expectations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Alessandro and Hildegard, for bringing us up to speed on GFAR and this very important collective action. And we'll have an opportunity to discuss. And part of the objective today is to see the interest to join this collective action, this core group, in order to continue to design the concept note that you have seen. So now let us move to Jan, who will talk to us about his project on a higher learning transformation. So I will replace the spotlight, Jan, and over to you. You can share your screen directly.
Okay, a very good afternoon. I would just ask if you can see my screen right now.
Yes, we can. It's not yet in, there we go. Now it's in presentation mode. Very good.
Yep, so you can see it. Great.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the word. My name is Jan Stas, and I'm from Faculty of Tropical Agri-Sciences when I do my PhD and also working in a project center. And today I would like to present you the draft concept note of the collective action, which was created by our dean, Professor Patrick Van Dam, who is currently in Namibia, so he sadly cannot join this meeting. So I will try on behalf of him explaining about our aim and our part in collective action. We just have to mention that it was created by multiple players, which contribute toward the creating of this concept, and it's still just a draft, so it can still be modified, maybe even upon your recommendations and comments. So I will start shortly about CZU and Faculty of Tropical Agri-Sciences. In Czech language, CZU.
I'm sorry, Jan. I
Yes.
can see your presentation, but a few people are not able to see it. So I just want to make sure that we can see the visual. Is this the case for most people? Yes, Hildegard as well. Okay, so probably no one can see it. So perhaps if you could stop the share and reshare, just to see if that makes
Sorry
it
for that.
possible.
I can try to do it one more time, or you want to share it?
As you wish. Has it? I have it as a backup. Okay, I'm seeing it, or others seeing it? Give me a thumbs up if you're seeing it.
Yes, put it on full screen.
Yes,
Very
now
good.
we should. Is it now full screen?
It
Yes.
is now.
Very good, excellent.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Sorry. So sorry for that. I will come back to what is the CZU, because on the first slide that was just the that introduction. So CZU in Czech language, it means the Agriculture University, but in English it's a little bit tricky. It's like Life Science University. So if we connect this together, we will get like the university full of life, full of science, and also with a focus on agriculture. Within the CZU, we have the FTA, which is like Faculty of Tropical Agri-Sciences, which refers to like a wide domain of tropical agriculture, both at the research and training level. It's like long-standing like 60 years plus building capacity, centering on the tropical agriculture, both in our former campus in setting in Prague, but also hands-on in the field of Global South. We offer really specific courses, including also the summer courses, which are like tailor-made to the specific needs of a diverse group and communities. We are also experienced and engaged in like several initiatives on developing and monitoring the university without the like, and distance educational initiatives, offering e-learning, mobile learning, and so on. And our focus is not only on providing academic training, but also on equipping students and any person which wants to acquire the knowledge with the skills and attitudes that will help them in their endeavors for lifelong learning. We have programs where the students sense a lot to acquire the right analytical and science-based and focused attitudes in our multicultural and gendered and challenging environment. We also have experience with non-traditional education programs, which use the community facilities as the learning resources, which mean in general that the students directly work with the farmers or with other communities to do their internships or other activities. Given the collective actions over objectives, which we'll present nextly, we think that the university can and should be like the nexus of this initiative, which should be leading it as a primus inter pares and in close collaboration with other networks of universities like GFAR, Moderator, and others under the guidance of EFARD and GFAR. So what are the main objectives of this collective action? First of all, it's like collaborative management of innovation. What is it? It's like a more combinatory or transversal methodological approach dealing with the way how the knowledge and innovations are generated than the thematic one. They should, this management should understand the diversity of the cultures or the innovation, the processes and models. It should also support the approaches of co-experimentation and co-validation of innovation among diverse actors. It should manage the multi-actor innovation processes, teamwork leading to partnerships, including achieving community engagement. Also, the capacity should build trust among all the actors in the team. It should promote the joint ownerships of the innovation processes, and it should also manage all the conflicts, set the shared goal and objectives, and also monitor and process and learn from the collaborative endeavor. Other objective is to train the youth to prepare them as the drivers of new agriculture and agribusiness enterprises of the rural transformation, and how to achieve it through the skills, entrepreneurships, and vocational trainings, and also by promoting soft life relation transmitter skills of the student, to engage them in co-research, co-innovation as a collective modality of generating knowledge for pro-poor and by-poor development. Next objective should be the transformation of formal higher education and setups and consents, which need to match with these new skills required for conducting the type of transdisciplinary work, which is implied by co-research and co-innovation processes. Lastly, but not least, this capacity building should be along the whole agriculture value chain, from the production, input supply value chain, but also the credit provision, marketing, and enabling the policy environment. So we just want to mention some soft skills for better future of our graduates. It should qualify them better in their future life. It's internal leadership, versatility, agility, communication skills, but also problem solving, logical thinking, and on the other hand, also the understanding and critical use of social media and critical analysis of understanding the systems, the sources of the information, formal, informal information sources, to use them not only at the value chain level, but also in their social interaction. Another soft skill should be the use of social media in communication and interaction with stakeholders, and also along the other in the whole chain. Besides that, these thematic fields should be offered without any limitations, so the graduates should choose as much as they wish to. We can mention other ones like business management, marketing, understanding the business environment, like the policies, regulation, legislation, and so on, but also like sustainability, diversity, and so on. So what is our model graduate for the special or the best student, let's say? It will be a person who is learning continuously. It's a proactive, ethical, capable of conceptualizing new businesses and also the investment opportunities. And it's engaged with communities, with the industries, and also aware of the continuously changing socioeconomic and political environment. This graduate should also develop abilities to leverage on the diverse range of innovation skills to address the complex interrelated challenges, analyze the gaps, and solve the problem. And all of that mentioned should be done not as an individual, but also as a team member. So they should be capable of negotiation, conflict management, and they should understand the group dynamics and also how to work with economically diverse and gendered and international groups. So how to achieve that? Maybe through the concept which is called university without walls, which is like a learning institution that offers dynamic packages of experimental problem-driven solving learning, joint multi-stakeholder student mentorships, entrepreneur grants, which means that also the private companies are connected to the universities. They are offering grants, maybe also the internships, which from my point of view is really important, that the students can work directly with the farmers or in the companies where they would like to gain new experiences, but also the conferences, seminars, art, theater, community engagement, and services. Like the core of this transformational learning should be to create the open living and learning environments where the students can find all of these elements mentioned, which is like need for their holistic development. But this development should not refer only to the academic sphere, but also on their physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and professional development. So how to implement it? We would suggest to use the two-tier practical implementation. At first, at the institutional aspects or the institutional level, which need to secure the policy governmental support of the responsible ministries or educational authorities, together with the community buy-in, which will support the student and change the mindset. And the success will depend really on the partnerships between us, between the universities, business communities, governments, and also the local organizations. What is also crucial is the exchange of expertises, complementary knowledge and resource sharing, and other type of these collective actions. All of that should be sustained and maintained by making the necessary changes in the rules, regulations, structures, and also the government to support this change. Second tier is at the learners level, at the graduates level. As we mentioned already, the internships, they should increase the employability of the graduates. The students should work with the farmers, producers, but also with all the operators along the whole value chain. So they will get the understanding of the whole process, about the lives of the farmers, the challenges which they are facing, and they will act as the advisors to transfer the know-how, the learning, but also they will gain themselves to get the knowledge back from the farmers. And after that, they can find some solution to these real world problems. Another level is the faculty members or the staff of the university should be also involved with the same stakeholders, so they can cooperate with the students, and by doing that, they will regain their position in the society, and their product will become even more appreciated and valued. Capacity development at this institutional and individual level, and the adoption of the learning organization model with continuous transformation through the integrated learning are the keys to success of this model. So what is the proposed plan, plan of the implementation? So firstly, the initial consultancies, workshops, and also some dialogues were built on the ideas developed by the representative platform of higher education stakeholders, which was created in 2017, together with representatives from GFAR and RAForum. After that, based on the continent-wide internet survey, which will use the RAForum's membership list, the African life science universities and the institutions will be asked if they want to participate in these collective action activities. And the questions will focus on their current practices, of their past experiences with university without walls approach, with their outreach and local community involvement, but also about the government system. After that, the analysis and the synthesis of the findings will be done in collaboration with EFARD, RAForum, GFAR, and the core group of representatives and stakeholders should elaborate a practical plan of operation, which will, amongst others, define the concrete countries and institutions where the test activities will be put on the ground. After that, at the end of the project, the final workshop, which will bring together all the major stakeholders, will consolidate experience, lesson learned, and also prepare the concrete plan for scaling out this model to other regions or to some other countries. This all should be facilitated and implemented also through the CZU day-to-day project management. Also, the short-term consultancies and contracts should be assigned. and this will like lead also to the management, and it will develop like upfront and monitor and evaluation format, which will be used to monitor the progress against the program, document the experiences, and also provide the regular reporting. This all should be assisted by the steering committee, which will consist of all the representatives from CZU, GFAR, EFARD, RAF Forum, and so on. And also, like, we should invite other stakeholders to create the platform, which will regularly meet and discuss the progress and the milestones achieved. As we mentioned, this is just the draft, just the initial kickoff, let's say. So there will be some modalities, and we believe that from the audience will come some suggestions or recommendations what to implement in all of these mentioned above. One more time, I'm sorry that Patrick couldn't join this meeting, so I tried at least to explain what he wanted to say. So this is last slide, but I want to thank you for the attention and show you at least some pictures from CZU activities or meetings. So thank you so much. And now it's time maybe for discussion and questions.
Thank you, Jan, for this really great presentation that hopefully clarifies collective, what a collective action is and how it works and the multi-stakeholder aspect of it. Alessandro, I wonder if you wanted to add something around this multi-stakeholder initiative, and perhaps you could stop sharing your screen.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So, Alessandro, did you want to add something? Yes.
A point of clarification. So you are having two presentations, because the first one is the overall overarching one, is the global context. And then we're having the second presentation by the institution who is going to coordinate the collective action on behalf of GFAR and EFARD. And that goes more into depth, into some details, and partly also has its own opinion and its own expression of declination, I would say, of how the global concept has to be applied. So that's how you have the two different ones, the global one and the more specifically an applied one.
Thank you for that clarification. And so we want to start the discussion. And before we do this, we want to have a sense of who is in the room. And so I'll be launching a poll. And the first question is, like to know, I think it's you've already been answering it. Very good. So I will share with you the poll. So I wanted to know your previous experience in higher education transformation. And so we wanted to see who has that. And we have quite a large number, 70% of the audience is involved with higher education transformation. But I think I will launch it again because not everyone responded. So perhaps I will just do a quick relaunch because when some people entered, they were not able to see it. So if you can just let us know your previous experience in higher education transformation. So a simple yes or no, and then we'll pick up from there.
Should we take part if we've already taken part in the first one?
Yes, please. So I've reset the poll so everyone can participate. Only 16 people had responded. So. Okay, we're at 76% participation. All right, so we're a bit less now that we've had everyone participate. So more than 50%. And so thank you for this first polling question. The second question we wanted to know from you is, as you've been involved in higher education transformation, who have you been partnering with? Because we're speaking about multi-stakeholder activities. So we're curious to know who are some of your partners. If you could put in the chat some of the collaboration work that you've been doing, we'll have a sense of who that is. So if you would like to put this in the chat. And I see that, Anne, you have started a question. Wonderful. We'll get to that in a sec. So we're inviting you. Perhaps you don't want to share, or I don't know. So I'd like to know who have you been partnered with, or maybe if you want to name some of the initiatives that you worked on in the past. So I see your university students and lecturers working directly with farmer innovators and their groups. Thank you, Anne. We from universities, think tanks, and governments. Yes, thank you. So we've got here some, Jim talks to us about some pilot projects in Mexico and Haiti and globally. Give you a chance to write. Thank you for this. So okay, Agrinovia, wonderful, academic institutions, curriculum reform, vocational learning, NGOs, FARA, great, thank you. So we are going to be collecting these ideas so that we can continue to connect people together. And so my next polling question before I launch the discussion is around your thoughts. Hildegard and Yang. So I'm going to launch this poll. Do you feel that it's addressing the right priorities? Yes, no, or maybe is my choice 3. And then we'll turn it over to discussion and questions. Choice 3 is maybe, or unsure. So as any good collective action, the response of others is important. And so good. So we've got 67% participation. Let me share the results with you. So yeah, over 70% of the audience here thinks that we're on the right track with the priorities. So that's good. And we've got some maybes. So let's get started with some questions. Let's start with you, Anne. You have the first question. I'm going to scroll up the chat and get to it, or maybe you would like to say it out loud. Here we go. So what type of resources, funding, and otherwise will be expected from the various collaborators in this collective action? So this is our first question. Who would like to take it? So a question around funding and types of resources that are expected from collaborators. So Hildegard and Alessandro, I'm seeing you speaking, but you're muted.
No, we were just wondering whether Anne would ask the question again, but since you have been reading it out, I was just suggesting that we can explain a bit how we see it, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead, yes.
Alessandro, would you like to?
Yes, clearly the question of Anne was directed to the mobilization of resources by the members of the collective action, which is crucial, both in kind and later on in cash. But for what concerns GFAR, we finance, after a meeting of this kind, the getting together of partners through workshops or other processes in order to define what we call a full design project or an appraisal of the project. So an initiative which has clear objectives, activities, means of implementation, budget, etc., etc. So we are ready to support for a period of time, which is generally 6 months, this sort of consultative process, which leads to a fully fledged project. In this case, a project which would involve the 3 continents and would have some pilot universities concerned, plus the other stakeholders. So this is what we can provide as seed money. Of course, then comes the mobilization of other actors or co-funding institutions.
Thank you. Thank you, Alessandro, for clarifying this. I am open to having questions either by email, not by email, but by chat, or you can freely raise your hand if you have a question or thoughts on this collective action. We want to hear your burning questions. I'm seeing in the chat agreement for the collective action. We have Jacques who explained how he agrees with that we need to go beyond technical skills and more practical business skills and soft skills. So we're also getting a lot of examples around projects that are being done around the world, about practical boot camps, studying abroad, having innovative field schools. ProLinova has the integration of research promoting farmer-led research inside the curricula. So when I asked if you agreed with the priorities, 1/3 said maybe. So we're curious to hear what you feel is missing. Is there a focus or something that you feel should be considered in this collective action? This is a great opportunity. We have set up this time specifically to hear your thoughts and comments. We'd like this to be two-way. Yes, Anne.
Well, basically, it's not that I feel that something is missing. I feel that what was presented is all-encompassing, but perhaps too all-encompassing. And for such a project, perhaps one has to be a bit more focused. So that's why I felt there were too many priorities. It wasn't prioritized enough.
What would you see as an area of focus amongst the various priorities?
Well, my own experience, the prime area of focus has to be on changing the attitude of people within higher education, but also the attitude of farmers working with people in higher education, of how they see each other and therefore how they interact with each other. So it's much more of a psychological issue.
Great, thank you. So as any transformation, it comes from a mindset. I think that's a very good point that you are bringing, starting from the individuals themselves. Murat, over to you. Question, comment,
yeah,
idea.
Actually, I have a very similar thinking to Anne. Like I wasn't sure because of, if you think at first, like the wording, collective action, when you translate it in multiple languages, it is a historical connotation. I mean, East Europe has a history of collection action of its own. When I don't know, of course, there's a lot of colleagues from there. I'm a bit humbled, I don't want to go there, but framing can be a bit different. The word matters. And if it's really, feeds into a concept that has been well established and not necessarily very positive. So that is one aspect. The second one is also, like there's a big literature, and when you look at the collective action and where the literature is currently is, you don't, as Anne said, you don't go for the full package, because that requires, a lot of things to change in a complex system, which is quite customized, which is context-based. So the approach is currently, identify the entry point that fits best to the context. Like there are multiple elements in the concept, enter the intervention from there. From there onwards, it can build up. Some of these interactions can reach the collective action level. Some of them will be probably a bit more humble, but the approach is currently, as it is in the literature, is that you don't approach with the holistic like this, because you can never fully understand a complex system, but identify the strategic entry points that is custom-based or the context-based. So that's why I wasn't sure this holistic approach can be operationalized. To wrap up.
Okay, I have a question around the first part of your comment around the wording itself. Were you referring to collective?
Yeah, mostly there, but I don't know if really any colleague from East Europe especially can articulate, but that's my assumption, because from reading multiple translated versions from East Europe, but I don't know the original connotation, but I suspect it might have a history. Okay. I wonder, Hildegard or Alessandro, if you want to talk about the history of how the term was derived. I remember it was back from 2016, 2017, that the term collective action got chosen as a word instead of multi-stakeholder. Or
yes, I will look at colleagues being with us. Did I see Charles, for example? He has been with GFAR longest, so maybe he can explain. Otherwise, I will turn to Alessandro, who has also been with GFAR since a long time, and he will also give an answer to another question in the chat, which we answered in writing by repeating what Alessandro said earlier on, that this is not a funding scheme, it's a collective action. And Charles, do you happen to be with us? I can't see him any longer. Alessandro, do you happen to have a good answer to how come that we call it a collective action and not a multi-stakeholder partnership?
Yeah, I used to have a good answer until my memory made me forget the author that we are referring to, but I can get hold of that author and give you the exact and precise definition from the sociological concept of collective action. So at the moment, I wouldn't be able to repeat it, but I know where to find it and to give it to all. What matters here is that we are really doing something in which the sum is, the arithmetic sum is more than the 1 + 1 making 2. So we are aiming at a value added, which is determined by the diversity of actors that are participating, and that by coming together in this, what we call the collective action, are creating a dynamic which is not simply the arithmetic sum of their participant representatives. That's what I can tell you. Now, if you go in a more sophisticated concept, there is one, and there is one, and I'll be happy to send it to you, but I don't remember it by heart.
Okay. All right.
Can I answer the issue of financing? And although honestly, I would like to speak about other matters, but if we need to put that up front, let's do it. So GFAR considers this as a very first step. We're just launching an idea, and the step is to be followed, if it is followed, so again, we're not forced, by a dynamic of consultation among diverse players that decide what is going to be done, where, with whom, with what objective, with what tangible results, based on what activities, etc. So we finance the design stage that brings the actors together. So that's what we can do. But the assumption is that these actors also support their own costs for in-kind contribution, or seek for complementary funding from their own partners that are interested in the subject matter.
Thank you. Thank you, Alessandro and Hildegard. Other comments, questions, ideas? I think it's wonderful that you're bringing up some points. Words matter, and when we choose a term, it's important to consider sensitivities and to be clear about that. And so when you hear about this collective action, Anne mentioned area of focus and not taking it, and Murat mentioned, yes, we don't want to take this on too holistically. What are some other concerns or ideas to ensure that this collective action reaches its objective of transforming higher education? And thank you for letting me know. I had locked the room, and so now some people were in the waiting room. I'm just letting them in, just so that you know. Darr, yes, go ahead.
I can share an initiative that we took as an EFARD. So we, as an EFARD, together with 3 universities, we took an initiative and we sent a project proposal, like together with the University of Warsaw and Czech Republic in Prague, Life Sciences University, and Malta University in Budapest, Hungary, and as well with the Agricultural University of Tirana. So to present myself, I'm Hildegard, a representative of Young Professional for Agriculture Development, chapter of Albania. So we, let's say, designed a project proposal in building capacity of students of Agriculture University of Tirana, and as well in entrepreneurship aspect with the methodology like learning by doing. So we applied with this project, but our idea is as well to exchange some students from these 3 countries, as I mentioned, the universities, to Albania and vice versa, to send some other students there, and then to offer some internships for the Albanian students in Hungary. So our idea is to train these students of the Agricultural University of Tirana in let's say increasing their capacities in entrepreneurship. So they will come with a business idea in the agriculture sector. Then we will link then with the private sector, with the farms and agribusinesses here in the country. So let's say somehow, like from the university through students, to transfer the knowledge to the private sector, farms and agribusinesses, and as well to for these students to get some internships in Hungary, and maybe as well in Poland and Czech Republic. So that was I wanted to share in this.
Thank context. You. Thank you. That's a great example of a collective action in action. Having multiple stakeholders being involved for a common purpose. I just wanted to highlight, I've been checking out the chat to see if there's some elements, and there was a comment from Martin who wanted to make sure that we that a collective action must build and understand local customs and institutions, and I think that that's highlighted in the partnership principles of subsidiarity. So as Hildegard and Alessandro mentioned, I think it would be wonderful to go refer to these partnership principles that are being worked on right now to make sure that we are taking into account the local actors. Sonia, over to you. I will give you the floor.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to summarize some thought that came to my mind by listening to the previous presentation. I first start with a case history that I think it can be interesting to present here, which are the boot camps. I was mentioned also in my notes in the chat. The boot camps that we created with the Future Food Institute in the past 2 years to create a new also profile, which is the Food and Climate Shaper. We did have several kind of participants there. We did have researchers, we did have professors, we did have activists, young people starting from 14 years old to 70 years old. I would like to take this in account. It was a very intergenerational and also transdisciplinary approach used to design the bootcamp in a way in which we combine lectures, experts, designer, practitioners, and we worked in the field. we create those boot camps everywhere in the world, so in different parts of the world. And I think the best case studies that we have as part of those bootcamp is in Pollica in the south of Italy, where it was created a space, a campus. I can call it unconventional campus. In the south of Italy, it's a village that it has several problems. Let's start from that. So it has many old people, not young people, so the people don't find opportunities to work there. So there are many nets, how we call it. And on the other side, it's a very important place historically and for the ecological point of view, because the Mediterranean diet was actually discovered that, and so it's providing us a great model of sustainable diets. So the idea was to trying to combine many kind of unconventional teaching and learning experience inside of the campus. So approaching with many of also pedagogies that we try and we experimented first with university students, with higher education in general, based on prosperity thinking. So practically also posing this important, I would like to say paramount issue about mindset, because first of all, you have to work on mindset, and after that you have to work on curriculum. Nowadays, those boot camps are also accredited by university. So they also, fill it out the circle, because then when you have a very good idea, doesn't matter that you got the accreditation, the curricular accreditation by the university, which is a key point to get credits, to be able to spend this in your academic career. And the second point I want to add is the need of training professors in this kind of change and transformation change. I think inside of the higher education, we have several actors that can be involved, and not just the ecosystem outside and inside, but inside of the higher education system, professors, students, and researchers mainly are the key point, and each of them need a special training to become the innovation broker that we mentioned before. There is still a very big gap between outside and inside, I think, at every level, and the fact of training the professors differently, it can really help to change the system. Then transdisciplinarity, co-design and co-creation, and other keywords I learned by all of the speeches. I think this is something that must be defined in terms of lexicon, because for co-creation for researchers in a scientific environment, it's very different from co-creation in practitioners environment and the way how they work in a transdisciplinary way. So if it is true that we use the same language, it is also true that sometimes the meaning of those terms are very different. So getting a kind of overlapping and matching between that concretely, it's actually very important. Many times I see projects created and designed as co-creation project, but in reality they are just sharing moment, or I don't know, like sending ideas together. That's not co-participatory, that's not co-creation, that's not transdisciplinarity. It needs an extra effort in that. And finally, epistemologically, I think very important point is the transformative and the transformational. I think that the use you had in the presentation before about transformational learning and transformative education, it's really a key point. Transformational means that you are part of the transformation, and the transformative is the effect and the impact you can create at also outside, something that you cannot plan it at the beginning, but it comes out with the design of the curricula that we were mentioning before. So just a few food for thought that I hope can be helpful for the discussion.
Thank you, Sonia. Yes, this notion of mindset and starting with the faculty, right? Because you may change the program, but if the key stakeholders have not changed their mindset, that is an issue. Also very, very interesting, this notion of words. Words matter, right? We brought up collective, and so co-creating. If Dr. Paul Engel was here, I have the pleasure of working close to him. He would say that it's the key difference is from the onset. it's not just involving one person, but really involving them from the very beginning and throughout the entire process. So I have a lineup of hands now, which is always exciting for a facilitator. And so I've got Jim, Tommaso, Anne, and then Dietrich in my lineup. So Jim, over to you.
Thank you, Nathalie, and thank you everybody for the presentations and their input. Jen, the presentation on the collaborative action, I think was very excellent and laid out. Just a little bit about my background. I had the opportunity to head the academic programs in the creation of a transformative educational institution called Earth University that's located here in Costa Rica, internationally focused student learning, experiential education, entrepreneurship, sustainable agricultural as its key focus in terms of from its creation over 35 years ago. And a lot of what we're talking about trying to create in terms of soft skills were built into our institution from the beginning as we created it. We created it, and I created the term itself to call our faculty facilitators of learning as opposed to teachers or professors, to change that mindset that is needed in order to change the way that our faculty think about the learning process, which is where our primary focus is. And the focus in terms of our graduates as agents of change. I presently lead a project that's called the Transforming Higher Education Project that is focused globally through GFAR, but also is specific and works with pilot universities in order to create change or that transformation process within pilot universities in Mexico and Haiti. So we have gone through the process of working through creating partnerships for this process of change itself internally within the institutions. And I guess this is one of the questions or one of the things I would like to raise, because through the discussion and what I'm hearing, it seems that there's a lot of different areas, a lot of different levels that we're talking about in terms of collaborative action and our partnerships. And the question I have is, are our partners at the faculty level, are our partners at the program level, or are they at the college level, or at the university level? Are we trying to change the university or the agricultural programs within the university to create this change of way of thinking, of way of doing, that creating the transformational learning process itself within the university? Or are we hoping that we'll be able to change the mindset of individual faculty members so that they themselves will also make changes within their own courses, although it will be partial because they may not necessarily have the support of their overall programs? I think this is an area, and also what are our objectives? Our objectives to actually create a mindset or create or raise the issue so that people are becoming aware and start to look for different ways that they can create changes within their own institutions themselves. Or are we talking about creating, changing the mindsets of presidents of the universities and deans or the heads of the colleges so that they themselves also will get on board and lead a change process within the universities? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I think you bring up the question around focus again. I think an easy answer would be all of the above, but what is the entry point and where will be the facilitating way? So I don't know if Alessandro, Hildegard, or Jan or Dietrich want to respond to that, or I continue the discussion. What would you, is there a response, or I continue?
Dietrich raised his hand.
That's a very good point.
We are just happy to listen and take in
okay.
all the ideas.
Yes.
Unless Alessandro has anything to know. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't want to jump the queue, but I think my reaction would go into a similar direction like Jim's. I mean, we have heard about a number of very interesting initiatives that are already ongoing in this field. There's a lot of experience, a lot of expertise assembled in the group, which has which is meeting in this room and probably also out there as well. So it's, I think this collective action is a bit about connecting the dots, not necessarily about reinventing the wheel. For me, it's not yet clear, and I would really like to understand from each and every point of view what you would think about this. So what will be the outcome that this collective action aims to, or should aim to generate in order to generate the highest impact? Yeah? Is this, for example, developing a handbook of co-creation at higher education institutions, methodology, something like this? Or do we think about developing a model curriculum? Or is it a training session for the university principals and chairpersons? Or do we think about writing a policy paper? Or what do you think is needed in order to facilitate this transition that we are talking about? What is missing in this field? This is a question which I would really like to get an answer on from everybody who has been working in this field. I'm quite sure that, that the collective action will initiate a lot of, let me say, concrete activities on the grassroots level, where all of us will be continuing this exciting work, working with stakeholders in our own universities and trying to bring the expertise together. But what can we do on a higher level to get to a breakthrough? Thank you.
Thank you, Dietrich. I will, after the upcoming questions or comments from Tommaso and Anne, I propose that we do a quick breakout room in smaller groups, and perhaps in the small groups you could discuss what you see might be some of these outcomes, and then come back and tell us. So I know that when we're 30, right now we're 28 participants, it's difficult to have equal airtime. So we'll do a quick breakout after the next two speakers, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss this. So Tommaso, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Nathalie. I will be very quick. I don't want to be off topic. I wanted just to go back to the funding and fundraising. So just to introduce myself, as I recently joined GFAR as partnership and resource mobilization specialist. So I just wanted to say that we are very keen to support partners when this collective action will be defined in supporting them in fundraising for this collective action and for other GFAR related topic and projects. So I will share them my contact later to, if any, to establish first contact with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you and welcome. Anne has lowered her hand. She is in agreement to go into breakout rooms. I love opportunities also to be into smaller groups. So you will be in a room with 3 other participants. I have let the magic of Zoom select who you will be with. And so we invite you to discuss what do you see as some of the focus areas of this collective action in higher learning transformation? What should be the focus? What would be some outcomes, as Dietrich mentioned, that would have the biggest impact? And so I don't believe there's an absolute right or wrong answer, but we want to hear from you because you're interested in this topic and you decided to join us today. So I will open up the rooms and enjoy this conversation. I will set for 8 minutes and then let you know when we're bringing you back. If you haven't been in a breakout room yet, you'll be invited to join. And so just say yes, and you'll be magically transported into a breakout room. So if you're not sure, say yes, and you will be entered. If you're on a phone, it should also work.
Meeting is being recorded.
Sonia, are you able to go in?
Yeah, I was there, but I was alone.
You were alone.
I was in a room alone without discussing. I didn't
Oh.
argue at all.
Let me move you to room 8. There you go.
Okay. Okay.
Jenny, Charles, Pariola, or Charles, Professor Vanga, are you able to join a room?
I am, but I'll stay here for a while because I'm just there monitoring from EFARD, so not engaging in the discussion.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. So then I will move people into other rooms then. « 36 secondes. Les gens vont revenir. C'est la magie.
Oui, la magie de la technologie.
meeting is being recorded.
Welcome back. I'm sorry if I had to regroup some groups, but there was too small. So I'm curious, what are some outcomes of your discussion? If you'd like to share it in the chat or share with us. Yes, Anne.
Okay, I would like to share what we discussed in our small group. One thing was that we felt that the collective action, although it's referring to higher education institutions in agriculture, should involve also other faculties and not just focus on agriculture. A second one was that we should identify, I think that has been planned already, existing initiatives along similar lines. One that was mentioned was Agrinovia in Burkina Faso, and that these institutions, these examples could in a way take a leadership or facilitate similar types of activities in other parts of the region, and perhaps even lead to a network of different organizations in different universities working on this topic. And another point that was raised is that it will be very important that all actors realize that this is not a fully funded project. This is a collective action where people are bringing in their commitment and their resources and can together perhaps generate more resources.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Anne. Yes, pooling resources is the way that we're going to be able to move the needle on this. And I've got Teresa, Hildegard and Alessandro asking Teresa and Jan if they'd like to report back. Teresa and Jan, you're invited. Do you want to report back?
Okay, so I can try to summarize.
Yeah,
so basically we I don't want to say stuck, but we mainly the involvement of youth in the sense of as one of the important stakeholders within this transformation that they are still often omitted. And I was, for example, presenting one of the examples from our last General Assembly, where we were facing with the situation of not realization properly the situation at the institutions, that they are not coming into the realization that they are not involving youth enough into the higher management and the higher policy dialogues or dialogues in general. So that was one of the discussion, and then we moved to the discussion between of, and I don't want to say it incorrectly, so maybe Alessandro, I will leave the floor to you again, between the maximalization and minimalization of the outcomes and the stakeholders. And now I kind of losing a track, so maybe if someone from the group can help me out.
No problem. Alessandro,
yes. Go ahead.
Yes, we tried to picture a sort of minimalist and maximalist approach. A minimalist approach, which doesn't say that it's without value, but it's something that seems to be easier to reach, is to develop among diverse stakeholders, and let me underline this, it's not about universities gathering with universities, it's among a group of diverse stakeholders that belong to the innovation, to the research innovation system, a sort of declaration of common values, a vision of where universities should go in the future. This is what we have called for Forgotten Foods a manifesto. We could think of a manifesto for higher education transformation, which will outline, through discussion, of course, not today, but through the discussion that we are going to hold, again, I repeat and I insist, among diverse actors that are involved in the universities, what would be these characteristics, how the universities could better serve the reason for which they've been created, This would be the minimalist approach. Develop a manifesto which would be co-signed by all the participants and their members. A maximalist approach, which I consider more difficult because it's a type of work that was done with Agrinovia. Jacques Nanema is representing the University of Ouagadougou. This is having a university and faculty, in this case it was the faculty of philosophy and not agronomy, in a university of the south or in a university of the north, and I would say both, in 3, 4, 5 universities, where both the curricula and the approach and the methods are being transformed. This in Agrinovia took about 5, 6 years. So we started working on what I mentioned before, the needs on the ground. From the needs on the ground, we defined the famous profile of competences. And from the profile of competences, we derived new models, new approaches to teach. And this became in 1998, no, I'm wrong, sorry, excuse me. I'm getting old. In 2008 and 2009, this became Agrinovia as one of the first unique training course in co-innovation. So if you look for a course, a master in co-innovation, this is Agrinovia. So that's a maximalist approach. So, but we can go for both. This will go, of course, in the longer term, it will take 2, 3 years. So having pilot universities, champion universities, that exist, that are better connected with each other, and new universities that are opening their doors to these new contents and approaches.
There's this notion of short-term and long-term, and then bringing learning from other initiatives, how to reduce this time to impact. I think that's a good an angle to consider. Thank you. I'm going to move to a new hand, Yakuba.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi everyone. So from our group, it came out that it's very important to break the disciplinary individualism, and in order to create a kind of a dialogue between the different faculties and disciplines, develop an approach, an inter and transdisciplinary approach. So this is what came out from our group. And in that regard, it's very important to organize a meeting between teachers, professors from different faculties and university in order to start brainstorming and developing a guide that will allow this dialogue between the different disciplines, etc. So this is what I wanted to put forward here. And to also, I would like to emphasize on what Alessandro just said about Agrinovia. I was a student from Agrinovia in 2013, 2014. So I can really relate with what Alessandro just said and confirm. It's been really a very instructive experience for me. I learned a lot. I came from an agronomy background and natural science, but in Agrinovia, I really learned to question what I studied there and open up to other stakeholders in order to take into consideration their logics, their representations, their practices. It has really been helpful to me, and both in the theoretical term and also in practical terms. I got the chance of having an internship with an association. I worked with a lot of stakeholders on the processes of innovations and also understanding their realities. It's very useful. So I just wanted to confirm. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So an example of how to change a mindset. So taking the time to learn. Jakuba, I wonder if I could ask you a question. You do not have to answer. I was curious from your experience. What would you say is one guiding principle, your experience working with multi-stakeholders? What's something that you found that you learned in the Agrinovia program that you put into practice in your internship? If you had to say one thing that's important, because we've been talking about focus, so just your opinion on one element to make these multi-stakeholder practices work. Would you have something, an opinion?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. One thing that I can put forward is really developing a participative approach from the design of the research protocol till the data collection and also the analysis. Trying to involve all the stakeholders and not just designing the research protocol from the lab or anywhere and just bringing it in the field. It's not going to really work, but in many cases, it really don't work. So this is really my experience and what I would suggest really.
Great, thank you. It's good to do some live testimonials. So we've been hearing some debriefs from your small groups. Are there others who would like to share some of your ideas, experiences? My question was, what are some areas of focus that this collective action could take? Or what are some outcomes that you see would be important? And Jan has to leave us. Thank you, Jan. He's put his email address in the chat if you would like to continue to connect with him. Okay, so I will launch another poll to solicit some interest. As Alessandro mentioned before, and also Jan in his presentation, some of the next steps for this collective action is to create a core group to start building out the concept notes. So we are curious to know if you would be interested in participating in this core group. So we have 3 responses. Yes, I would like to be considered. No, thanks. Or maybe I would like more information. And so we'd like to know what would be the interest. Because as we get more stakeholders, you get to refine and get to be involved from the start.
Can you briefly rephrase, Nathalie? What is the scope and objective of the groups again? Core group?
Yes, thank you for that. Who would like to respond? Dietrich or Hildegard or Alessandro? If you want to say a bit more about what that would entail and
next steps.
Yes, with pleasure. So the next steps, right? That's what you were saying, Nathalie?
Well, the polling question is if you'd like to join this core group, but the question is, well, what will they do and what will be the next steps for this group if you are interested?
Yeah, we hope to see the result of the polls, that everybody is willing to join, of course. And otherwise, if you think again of what Jan presented, I think there was he walked us through the steps. Ah, that's amazing. 90% are willing to join. That's good. We look so much forward to doing that. Yeah, so there were some elements how to move to the next steps, and I think we share the PowerPoint. But since Jan had to leave, I hand to Alessandro again to give us some more steps.
I think we are in process, and this is the very first meeting of ideas that need to mature. So now we have 2 PowerPoints. I said a more global one and a more specific one. I think in the next meeting we should perhaps come together and I would hope aim for concrete outcomes, concrete objectives that we can achieve. So I would consider this first meeting as a first gathering to open the box, so to speak, to get at least to know a minimum each other. And the next meeting is about, okay, having understood, of course, we will check that, the basic concepts of what we're doing and why we're doing it, try to understand what can we realistically aim, as I said, from a minimalistic point of view. I gave an example, but there can be others, to a maximalistic point of view. So what can we aim in 6 months, and what can we aim in 4 years, considering that GFAR can provide resources for the 6 months period, for the period in which we want to develop a fully fledged project, which can be either already a declaration, a joint declaration, and could be already a project, a sort of really well-structured endeavor to specifically transform higher education through, of course, initial champions that we want to have towards a pathway that we're going to describe. So concretely, your yes, you're willing to join, is willing to be participating in the next meeting, where we'll be much more focused on what we want to achieve together and what is achievable.
Well, I have good news, because some people wrote to me that they were waiting to hear what it was about before they said yes. So we were already at 92, so it may be even more. But who should they contact? Because this was an anonymous poll. So those that are interested, what would be the next steps for those that are interested? Who would be their key person?
I think the 3 persons to be contacted are myself, Alessandro Maschinelli, Dietrich Darr, and Jan at Czech University.
Okay, wonderful. So anyways, you will see this in the minutes. We'll be sending you the presentations to everyone who's attended, and we'll clarify these how to reach out to the 3 core organizations right now. Also want to mention in the chat that WAPAR would love to see a concrete training/guide on transformational learning that's created by the members of the groups, and then to deliver and promote this training and guide accompanied by a joint declaration. So I'm seeing being very actionable, making sure that it's actionable. And Jacques is sharing that they would love to join this collective action, as well as AgriNovia.
And maybe I'd like to respond to the comment put in French by Professor Nanima to be more concrete. Perhaps, as I want to underline, AgriNovia is not the only example that exists, but it would be good that Professor Nanima, I can help him on this, puts down the history of AgriNovia. I think we have already some documents, a short history that shows the steps through which a program focusing on co-innovation and co-research was generated. That could be of inspiration. It's not a guide, it's an example of how you can achieve that. But as I said, it took a number of years.
Thank you. We still have a couple of minutes available to hear from you. And so I reopen the floor if you'd like to share some of the discussions that you had in the breakout rooms.
Maybe I can throw an idea, if it's okay, just last minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Coming from the experiences of working in multiple organizations simultaneously, or I famously call being a hybrid. I think as personal experience, I really benefited a lot being simultaneously working for multiple organizations. These are all organizations, all do research. What I realized is that if you put a single person that has to comply with the multiple realities, some of them will find good ways. So my practical suggestion is that when you try to program the new education and transformative, more collective action type of research, we should also put the same people in multiple heads. Because that person has to do the job anyway. For multiple organizations, it's a struggle, you really feel frustrated multiple times, but in the end, you really become a collective person because you learn simultaneously, forcing yourself to, do the right job for different organizations, different departments, and different realities.
Thank you, Murat. That's a real call to action. If we want to transform anything, we need to transform ourselves first. And so if there are no other comments or questions, I will head off to the final next steps and really want to thank you for your participation already from my end. So Dietrich, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Nathalie, for moderating, leading us through this discussion. Thank you, everyone, for your great contributions. I'm extremely pleased and I'm very inspired now after this session, first of all, to see the interest that all of you have expressed in being part of this initiative, contributing to making this a success. It's impressive to see, and I'm very humbled basically to see how much expertise is already there, how much good work has already been delivered, on which we can build in this initiative. So this is very, very, very nice. And it also illustrates the point Alessandro made earlier, the sum is greater than its parts. I think this is what it is really about. So thank you for this. It's a very important topic. I think we can all agree to this. You have been, some of you or many of you have been working on this already for years, if not decades. I have been spending part of my career working on collective innovation and transformative higher education. So I think this is what unites us and what inspires us to put in the time and the thinking and the commitment that is needed to make some tangible steps and reach some concrete results. I'm also very happy to see that the colleagues from the Czech University of Life Sciences have already put in and invested some initial thinking of how to lead and steer this action. They are a highly qualified and highly capable group of young academicians with a lot of contacts and experiences in the Global South. And I'm really grateful to them also that they have declared their interest in leading this initiative on behalf of EFARD. Now I look forward to the next steps. As we have just discussed, we will collect your interest. We will gather in this group again to define and revise and finally to finalize this concept note. And then I also look forward to implementing the actions that we identified with the support and leadership from GFAR. And I hope that this group can make some lasting impact and some bring some change to the way of how we train our agricultural students and the future professionals in this sector, because this is urgently needed. So thank you once more for your interest, for your time being with us today, and we shall stay connected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dietrich. Thank you very much for these closing words. If you have not seen the satisfaction poll, I encourage you to let us know your appreciation for this afternoon's discussion. I was very happy to see so much participation. And so please take a moment to complete this. Thank you. And I see that you were very, very satisfied in general. So very, very glad to be here. It's always a pleasure to be with all of you, moving the needle on agriculture, very important in this time. And so I give you the gift of time, an extra 10 minutes in your day. Please take this moment for you. And I look forward to seeing you again. Have a great afternoon or a great morning wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Merci, Alessandro.
Thanks.
Merci.
Merci à tous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.